Imagine this. It's a darkened room lit only by a single candle flickering in front of you. You're holding a mirror standing at the bottom of a staircase. Slowly, you begin to walk backward up the steps, careful not to trip, careful to keep your eyes locked on your own reflection. The old belief says that if you do this right, if the timing and your focus are perfect, you will see the face of the person you're destined to marry appear over your shoulder in the mirror. But there's also another, darker version of this legend. One that says if you're unlucky, or perhaps if something from the other side notices you, you won't see your future husband's face at all. Instead, you'll see a skull, a death omen, warning that you won't live to marry anyone. This ritual is just one example of what humans have done for millennia to peek beyond the veil, to try and divine answers from the unknown. Today, we're diving deep into the mysterious world of divination, where it began, why humans across the globe turned to it, and how these practices evolved over time to become the tarot readings, astrology apps, and folk rituals that we know today. First, we'll focus on its origins and evolution, tracing its journey from ancient temple rituals to modern-day superstition. Then, we will go full paranormal, exploring divination as a tool from spirit communication, ghost hunting, and even dangerous rituals that can help open portals to the unknown. So, light a candle, settle in, and let's begin our journey into the strange and timeless world of divination.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sisters of the Strange. I'm Shay.
I'm Landry.
And we're back.
Yeah, this week we clearly are going to talk about divination. I'm super, super excited. I have a little bit of information to give you, but I'm going to let Shay talk about, if she wants to, about her little update that we just discovered.
Yeah, there was a Menendez update. Not a good one.
She picked up her phone and I said, "Oh, are you doing a Menendez update?" And she said, "Huh?"
Yeah,
I knew before her.
Yeah, she did. Well, I had seen it, but I kind of just like scrolled past it because I didn't realize that it was
literally like 2 days after their last thing came to light. So you probably were thinking it was probably tied into the same.
I thought it was still the same thing. Yeah. So on September 16th of this year, the Los Angeles Superior Court judge that was assigned to their habeas corpus petition case rejected their habeas corpus because the judge found that the presented evidence was not sufficient material or credible, and that it would not have more than likely not changed the outcome of the trial. According to the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, which the evidence that was presented in the habeas corpus was a letter that Eric wrote to his cousin Andy when he was like really little, not little, but like when he was younger, before all of this stuff happened, saying, "This is what's happening to me, like, you know, my dad's hurting me, whatever." How that's not credible to the case makes zero sense to me. But I think it's a very powerful piece of evidence. And then the second piece was the letter that, or not the letter, but the information that came forward from Roy Roselio from the boy band, the Mexican boy band, saying that Jose had abused him as well when he was a teenager, when he was helping manage this boy band. And apparently that's also not credible evidence and doesn't bring forward more information about how terrible this man was. But I digress. It was denied, and they, still, the brothers are still in the same position. They still have the same stance. None of this has ever changed. This is what happened, and they're still being denied. But the case still remains active on other fronts. Like the clemency from the California governor is still in consideration, and that's basically the last thing that we have right now. So
I was watching Friday Night Lights again. I've watched it a lot, and I started it again just the other day. And the daughter is mad at the mom, and she's like, "Just wait till we get home, and then you can pull a Menendez."
Oh, yeah.
And I never understood that until now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I thought that was silly when I caught that. I stopped and I was like, "What?"
Yeah. It was kind of a big thing in like shows and stuff. Like it was like people always like took jabs kind of at it.
Yeah, I'd never noticed it before. And I don't know if I texted you, but I know I called my mom and I was like, "Mom, I didn't realize this."
Yeah. I think we talked about it before.
I think I probably texted
Or you
you.
texted it to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Snapchat, whatever.
I haven't seen you in a while.
Oh, been a minute.
Yeah. So I actually had told Shay also that I wanted to cover a poltergeist case really badly. I did. I really wanted to. I wanted to do it for the spooky season, for Halloween. I know that people are looking for stuff like that. I'm going to have to let her take the reins. I started research on like 2 different cases and I didn't sleep after that. And if I did sleep, I had a dream that I was exorcising a demon from my room. But yeah, so in my dream, it actually helped me sleep better after my dream, because in my dream, I stood like so strong. I wasn't scared. I was crying, but it was more out of annoyance, like just go away.
Mhm.
You know, like when you're so annoyed that,
Yeah.
I was like that, but I wasn't crying because I was scared. I was just like, leave me alone, like go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And normally a bad dream like that, I'll wake up and like not be able to go back to bed. I didn't even wake up like until like my morning, woke up and was like, well, that was weird. Let's not research that anymore. So I have halted research on that. But I also did want to say I did book a road trip to Boston and Salem and Woodstock and Stowe. So if any of y'all have ever been there or live near there, will you send me recommendations? Because I'm trying to do like not necessarily fall foliage. I know there's a ton of pumpkin patches, a ton of corn mazes, all sorts of things like that. But I want to do like Halloween festivals that are near there, spooky things that are near there.
Yeah.
So I need some recommendations on that.
Send them in. All the things.
Yes. And then Shay wants to do her own. She wants to do a listener story. She wants to do it because she hasn't gotten to do one yet.
Yeah.
So it is about to be October and we need everyone to send us listener stories so that she can do an episode.
Yes.
I don't think we have quite enough right now for a full episode.
Mm-hmm.
But
We
help
will.
her out. Send her
Yeah.
stories so she can do that. It's
Whatever you like.
Yeah, anything. It's Sisters of the Strange podcast at gmail.com. And then lastly, we have an exciting announcement, and it is an ode of spooky season.
Yay!
What are we doing?
We are going to be doing 2 episodes a week for the entire month of October, as long as our timing allows, which we've been
Yeah.
planning ahead of time for months now. So we should be able to handle this. But we figured that we might as well do 2 episodes a week to really like put out as much spooky October Halloween themed stuff that we can, so that we can get everybody pumped up for Halloween, because Halloween is our 1-year anniversary.
Yeah, we literally put it out October 31st. It was like a Thursday because this year's a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our very first episode. So this episode that goes out will be the last one of September.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, which actually is this coming week, will be that Tuesday will be this one. And then I'll have another episode that's going to be mine on Thursdays. Shay's going to cover Tuesdays. I'm going to do Thursdays. So you should get majority of hers. I think will still kind of be murder. She might have some mystery, some stuff
Mhm.
in there, but it'll still be murder and paranormal. We're just amping it up.
Yeah. I've got
Which-
some really scary ones up my sleeve.
I don't.
But anyway, yeah, I'm going to do some possession cases, murder cases. She's going to do this whole Halloween. We're going to dive in. We're easing into it today. It's going to be great. So tune in and listen to us all throughout October, because this is the best time to listen anyway.
Yeah. As our views have gone up a lot just recently, and I'm like, it's because it's spooky season. So
Yeah.
we got to give the people what they want,
Yeah. We're here for you.
but it's also what I want.
Same.
I'm
Same,
like,
same.
I need it to feel like fall and like Halloween. Something about the weather where we live does not ever
Nope.
feel like fall or Halloween. Like there's the people who live in even Georgia, just the trees change colors.
Mhm.
Ours go from alive to dead, no in between,
Yeah.
no red, no pretty.
Nope.
You're alive and then you're dead. And they don't even like drop leaves. It's because of drought. It's not actually because of like cold and seasonal change. It's
Yeah.
like, we need water. We're dying.
We're dead.
Yeah, it's not actually like a pretty change. So,
R.I.P.
yeah. Okay, enough of the jibber jabber. Are we ready to get into some divination?
I'm ready.
Do you know what divination like is at all?
As far as I know, it's like, what I think is like, it's kind of like conjuring up something.
Okay.
But not necessarily like a physical thing, but like kind of like a manifestation.
Mhm. Okay.
Is what I think of.
Interesting. I like it. So some of this stuff might be repetitive because I go through a timeline. It's not repetitive in the sense of, it's just some places think of divination the same,
Mhm.
but I still touch over it. So bear with me because it gets really interesting as we go. Some things just might seem the same a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. So, before we dive into the history of what divination is, let's start with the simple question: what is divination? Divination is the practice of seeking knowledge or insight through supernatural, mystical, or spiritual means. It's basically about trying to tap into the unknown, like trying to see the future, reveal hidden truths, or receive guidance from forces beyond the human realm.
Okay.
So yeah,
Kind
manifestation,
of.
divine. You're there. So historically, divination has been used for everything from major political decisions to personal matters of love and loss. So kings once consulted diviners before going to war. Farmers turned to omens before planting crops. Everyday people sought answers about relationships, illnesses, and even the weather. The word divination itself comes from the Latin word divinare, meaning to foresee or to be inspired by a god. This highlights an important point. People originally saw divination less as magic and more as a direct communication with the gods or spirits. But how did this practice begin? To understand that, we have to go way, way back to the earliest civilizations. So, picture this. It's thousands of years ago. There are no written languages yet, no scientific methods, and no technology. Human beings are living in small communities, completely at the mercy of the natural world. You're a hunter-gatherer or maybe an early farmer. A sudden storm destroys your crops. A solar eclipse turns the sky black in the middle of the day. A loved one becomes sick and there's no cure in sight. In that moment, you desperately want to understand why these things are happening. And more importantly, you want to know how to prevent them. This is where divination begins, with a need for answers. So before science, divination was humanity's way of making sense of the chaos.
Okay.
Sounds crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Can you imagine being in that time and not having any idea why the sun is doing what it's doing or why the sky just blacked out in the middle of the day?
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah. If we didn't have warnings now that we were getting a solar eclipse and it turns completely black in the middle of the day, even when we did know, it felt really ominous.
It's still very ominous for sure.
It felt creepy. The one in like 2024 where it completely blacked out for a few seconds.
Yes.
I was laying outside, like we went outside before it had the glasses and everything because we were actually in the path of it happening. It was creepy. The animals went silent.
Everything was silent.
Like, I live in a neighborhood where you can hear people mowing their yard and you can hear the birds and the dogs and kids playing in their backyards and the pools and stuff like that. And so you hear all this noise and then all of a sudden it's nothing. No birds, no insects. It was weird.
Yeah, I was driving and I stopped into the HEB parking lot and admired it from there.
Oh, it was weird. It was weird. But yeah, so can you imagine not knowing at all? Yeah, screw that. I'd be like, this is it. Starts crossing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh my gosh.
It's the rapture.
Yeah. Oh, don't get on that. Here we go. Okay, the earliest recorded forms of divination come from Mesopotamia, often called the cradle of civilization, like Mesopotamia is.
Yeah.
If you remember that from history when we were in 5th grade.
Yep.
We're talking as far back as 4000 BCE. Instead of being something only a few mystical people did in secret, it was respected and practiced at the highest levels of power. Divination was a cornerstone of daily life, woven tightly into religion, government, and even warfare. For Mesopotamians, understanding the will of the gods was essential. After all, the gods weren't distant beings. They were thought to directly influence harvest, health, weather, and the fate of kingdoms. Because of this belief, kings and rulers placed enormous trust in their diviners. See, it's weird.
Gotcha.
Got me. Don't come at me. These specialists function much like modern-day intelligence advisors. Their readings and interpretations could guide political strategy, foreign relations, and military campaigns. A king might not act until he knew the god's stance on the matter, and the gods spoke through signs, patterns, and symbols that trained priests could decode. One of the most famous methods was hepatoscopy,
okay,
or liver divination.
Oh,
how would you say liver? That's what I was like, you're going to be able to help me when we get there.
Hepatoscopy. Hepatoscopy?
Something like that. I don't know what the liver part is. The
Hepat is liver.
The hepatoscopy, something like that, yeah.
Okay.
So when a sheep or other sacrificial animal was offered to the gods, its liver was carefully removed and examined. A specially trained priest would study every detail, the shape, size, color, texture, and markings. A bump on one part of the liver might signal divine approval, while a discoloration elsewhere might mean disaster.
Interesting.
Yeah, it might sound strange, but imagine the weight of this. A king's decision to go to war, to sign a treaty, or even to build a city could rest entirely on what a priest saw on a sheep's liver.
Wild behavior.
I mean, I make a lot of decisions on flipping coins. So.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I don't know about my coin flipping for like going to war.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about my coin toss.
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be a little bit more like thought put into
rationality.
That. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I flip coins all the time. I'm like, oh, do I want to do that? But normally by the time the coin lands one way or the other, you know what you were wanting to do.
Yeah.
You know? There's sometimes it lands and I'm like, nope, need somebody else. I'll ask Aaron. I'll be like, okay, just tell me. And he's like, I'm not making a decision. I'm like, just say left or right. And I'll have like something in my brain of like what would be left and what would be right. And he's like, I'm like, just give me an answer. I don't know. So this was considered the most reliable method of discerning the will of the gods and therefore the safest way to rule. But divination wasn't limited to organs and sacrifices. Mesopotamians were also keen observers of the heavens. They believed the gods communicated through the sky just as much as through the body of an animal. Eclipses, comets, unusual weather, or strange star alignments were all cataloged as omens with specific meanings. Over centuries, these observations were collected into massive works like the, bear with me on this, Enuma, Anu, and Lil. Probably really wrong, but you know. A series of tablets that acted as an instruction manual for celestial divination. Priests could look up what a solar eclipse meant, or what the sudden appearance of a bright star might foretell, and then tell that information directly to the king. These records weren't random. They represented a systematic attempt to find patterns to link celestial events with earthly outcomes. So basically they would write down like, oh, the stars did this, and then all of a sudden this was happening on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, the Mesopotamians laid the first foundations of astrology. What began as the interpretation of divine omens eventually evolved into the belief that the stars and planets could reveal truths about human life, personality, and destiny. In other words, the horoscopes we glance at today can trace their ancestry all the way back to the skies over ancient Mesopotamia.
Wow.
Really, really crazy.
That's cool.
It's crazy because I read my horoscope every day. That's a form of divination.
Mm-hmm.
So is flipping a coin. I'll kind of get to it, but I was like, so what all could be considered a form of just divination that we do every day?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll get to that, but
okay.
Interesting little.
It's making me think of like whenever I see, because I will look up symbols for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I randomly am seeing like an animal that I don't ever see, or if I see, something in the sky or a constellation, things like that, I look it up and I'm like, okay, what does this mean?
Yeah, so it's divination, like in a sense, because that's what they used to do. They would look at this for the symbol of like what that meant to them.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. So around the same time that Mesopotamians were reading livers, ancient China was developing its own powerful form of divination, oracle bone divination, also called scapulomancy.
Okay.
Or plastromancy.
Okay.
This practice reached its height during the Shang dynasty around 1600 BCE and became one of the most important ways rulers sought guidance from the spirit world. This process began with a question, and they weren't just casual questions, they were heavy concerns about the fate of the kingdom. Will the harvest be plentiful this year? Will the king's health improve? Should we march to war against our enemies? A trained diviner, or scribe, would carve these questions directly into the flat side of an ox's shoulder blade or the belly of a turtle shell.
Okay.
Once written, the bone or shell was subjected to heat, often by pressing a hot rod into small pits carved on the surface. The intense heat caused the material to crack, and the diviners would then carefully study the shape, direction, and depth of those cracks.
Wow.
Your face, you're like, okay.
Okay.
The intense heat caused this. Oh, did that. To the Shang people, these cracks weren't random. They were the voices of the ancestors and deities answering the questions posed. Diviners would record the interpretation alongside the original question, creating a permanent archive of the dialogue between humans and the spirit world. This practice wasn't just religious, it had massive political and cultural weight. Kings would not make major decisions without consulting oracle bones first. Should an army be sent to battle? Should a new city wall be built? Should a marriage alliance be made? All of these could be, and often were, decided based on the verdict of this cracked bone. In this sense, oracle bone divination was the backbone of Shang statecraft, a ritual that gave rulers both spiritual legitimacy and practical guidance. Perhaps the most fascinating legacy of this practice is that the carvings on these bones represent the earliest known form of Chinese writing. Over time, the characters inscribed on oracle bones evolved into the complex writing system still used by the Chinese today. In other words, the attempt to communicate with gods and ancestors directly gave birth to written Chinese language.
That is so freaking cool.
Isn't it?
That makes sense. Yes, that's so cool.
It's like out of every single thing from people learning divination and like using it, it's formed a way of their society, not just like answering questions of should we go to war or should we do this or should we do that, but it's left its mark, like horoscopes. And now their like written language was based off of it, which is insane.
That's so neat.
Yeah. So when we talk about oracle bones, we're not just talking about an ancient ritual, we're talking about the foundation of Chinese civilization itself. The act of seeking answers from the spirit world ended up creating one of humanity's oldest and most enduring writing systems, linking the divine with the cultural in a way that still echoes thousands of years later.
Wow.
Crazy. So for the Egyptians, the world... Egyptians! So for the Egyptians, the world was filled with divine forces that touched everything. The flooding of the Nile, the health of the pharaoh, the fate of the crops, even the content of one's dreams. Nothing happened by chance. Everything reflected the will of the gods. Because of this worldview, Egyptians placed enormous importance on reading the signs of the divine. Two main forms of divination stood out. Astrology. The Egyptians were passionate sky watchers. They tracked the stars and planets with meticulousness, believing the stars and planets' movements carried messages about the future. Priests created elaborate star charts, not just to track time and agricultural cycles, but to advise rulers about when to wage war, when to build temples, or when to perform sacred rituals. The rising of Sirius, for example, was seen as a powerful omen. It signaled the annual flooding of the Nile, which sustained Egyptian life. If you can tell, I'm really good at writing, not good at reading, not good at talking, not good at expressing my things. Like if I'm mad at you and I need to let you know I'm mad at you, I'm writing you a letter. I'm not yelling at you. I'm like, let me get back to you. And then I'll hand you something.
I'm going to write a letter.
Genuinely, my mom will vouch for that. She makes fun of me all the time. She's like, oh, are you going to write a letter? And I'm like, actually, yeah, give me a pen and paper.
Let me write this down.
I sure freaking will.
Hey, sometimes that's the best way to express yourself.
It gives me time to think. But yeah. Big letter girl. I'm going to have a BF. Okay. So their second form, like I said, they have two main forms of divination that stood out to the Egyptians. The second one is dream interpretation. So dreams were thought as a direct message from the gods or the dead. Certain temples were even dedicated to this practice where priests acted as interpreters of dreams. Ordinary Egyptians who wanted divine insight could practice what's called incubation, which was sleeping in special sanctuaries or temple chambers with the hope of receiving a prophetic dream. Upon waking, a priest would help interpret the vision, offering guidance for personal or political decisions. At the heart of these practices was the Egyptian belief in Ma'at, it's M-A'-A-T, the principle of truth, balance, and cosmic order. To the Egyptians, the universe functioned best when harmony was maintained between the earthly and spiritual realms. Divination wasn't about predicting the future, it was about aligning human action with divine will, ensuring that order triumphed over chaos. For the pharaohs, who were seen as semi-divine figures themselves, divination offered legitimacy and guidance. For ordinary Egyptians, it provided comfort and clarity in a world where the gods' influence was felt in every river, star, and dream. In this way, divination wasn't an isolated ritual. It was the part of the very fabric of Egyptian civilization, shaping how they lived, ruled, and understood their place in the cosmos. So something about that reminds me a lot, which I get into it here as well, because we're going by kind of a timeline. If you've picked up Mesopotamia and we're going really like more recent from there. But it reminds me of just the river and stuff like that. Reminds me of all of the fantasy books I've read and how they look. A lot of the like books you read like that, they do look for signs and things like that of where they're going and like foreshadows. And it's just interesting. It's interesting when you are learning this to start trying to put it into like how you said, like you'll look up animals that you are starting to see and things like that. When you start to actually like pay attention to the world that's around you,
how much insight you get.
Yeah. And putting it into things like this.
Yeah.
Which for those of you who are curious like me, we talked about it in the last episode about, can you do all of these things and still believe in like God, basically? Which I'm not saying what we do or don't believe in. I'm just saying, is that something you can do? Because that's always been a question. I was raised, which we had someone comment, and I was like, I just don't know. Because I was raised in a household where you read the King James, and if you didn't read that Bible, you're wrong. Like, that's it. If I tried to read an NIV or an NLV or anything different just to try and understand a little bit better, I was wrong. So sometimes those are the questions I like ask, like, what can I do, or what could you do, or how can you go about it and still believe in these things? So I actually do talk about where divination was used in the Bible at the very, very end of all of this. I don't know if this is going to be a 2-part episode or if this is going to be one giant one, but it's in the end of this research where the Bible has divination in it.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know where I was going with. I don't know why that came to my mind, but it did. So stick around if that's something you're wondering right now. But I mentioned earlier that we are going kind of in order to like modern day. So we started at Mesopotamia. Now we're going. So we've gone through a few of the older
big civilizations.
Yeah, and now we're coming. We're still in older, but I'm just letting you know we're coming more this direction in time.
Okay.
So among the Maya, Aztec, and other indigenous peoples of the Americas, divination was deeply tied to timekeeping, astrology, and cosmic cycles. These civilizations believed the universe operated according to sacred rhythms, and by tracking those rhythms carefully, humans could align themselves with the divine forces. For the Maya in particular, the calendar was far more than a tool for marking days. It was a spiritual map of reality. Their famous 260-day sacred calendar assigned each day its own unique combination of numbers and symbols, each carrying specific gods, energies, and omens. A child born on one day might be believed to have the qualities of a certain deity, while another day might carry warnings of hardship or illness. This calendar shaped not only personal identity, but also communal decision-making. So that, I don't know which, and I don't think I have it in here, I don't know which calendar we go off of on our horoscopes.
Mm-hmm.
But our horoscopes are all based off of things like this is the day you were born. You had to put the day you were born and location, which at first, when I was putting all that information in, I almost didn't because I was like, they're just trying to steal my information. Like,
no,
they
matters.
just want to be me, but it does matter.
Yeah,
so
it matters.
We both use an app called CoStar.
It's incredible.
It's so much fun. And we've made friends with each other. Like, we're friends with each other on it. So it'll say like our relationship for the day or whatever. It'll have little funny things. But then it'll also have a thing for yourself. And it's based off of like your time or like the time you were born, the date you were born, the like general location of where you were born. And so this sounds crazy, but I was going through kind of a big life change. I would say it's been this month. It wasn't that long ago. And I was like, man, I really need like a sign. I need something. And I don't need one that I can just like interpret. I need one that like punches me in the face. And for about a whole week, it was 5 to 7 days. My horoscope was so incredibly accurate. I like kept screenshots of it because I was like, this is.
Yeah, it was punching you in the face.
It genuinely, like there was no room for interpretation there. It was like, boom, boom. I was like flabbergasted by it because I've never gotten something like that accurate.
Yeah.
But it'll also say it has a list of do's and don'ts. And so it's like, do for the day lip gloss or don't for the day camo or whatever. There was one day it said, I was on my way to record over here and it said, don't podcasts. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to interpret that as don't listen to a podcast. It didn't say don't record.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Exactly. But it's fun.
It is
What's
fun.
your say today?
My do's and my do's and don'ts today. My do list is play your hand, no phones, and poker face. And my don'ts are cold shoulders, passwords, and red herrings. Interesting.
My data glance says you are changing. It's scary. It says do full immersion, wistful, steam. Don't. Characters, pipe dreams, phone voice.
Pipe dreams.
I'm like, is this phone voice?
Yeah.
I read it earlier this morning and was like, okay, so what is phone voice? No, my phone voice is.
Hi, this is Landry. How can I help you?
Yeah, I'm not going to do it because it says not to, but that's my phone voice.
Yeah. Everybody has one.
Yeah, it's the same as your drive-through voice.
Can I please get a...
Yeah, and then you just sit there and you're like, oh shit, what was I going to say? What was I going to order? I knew. I always know what I'm going to order until the drive-through throws me off. It's like, will you be using your mobile app your mobile app today? And it's like, no. And then it's like, okay, what do you want? And it's like 2 different voices. I'm like, whoa.
Hello?
One's like automated and one's not, but I'm like.
Gets me every time.
Yeah. Okay. So the people responsible for interpreting this cosmic system, which was the clock calendar situation we just talked about, the
Mayans?
It's the Mayan Aztecs, other indigenous people of Americas, but it's the 260, their sacred day calendar, the people who interpret that. They were known as day keepers. So did you need to know when to plant maize for a successful harvest? The day you would oh my God. The day keeper consulted the calendar. Want to choose the best time for a marriage, a religious festival, or even going to war? Again, the calendar provided the divine answer, but only the day keepers
could interpret it.
Yes. The Aztecs, too, had elaborate systems of calendrical divination. Their 260-day ritual calendar was used alongside a solar calendar to weave together cosmic cycles. Priests trained in these systems could read a person's day sign to understand their destiny. Entire state rituals were scheduled around these cycles, reflecting the belief that acting in harmony with cosmic order was essential for survival and prosperity. These societies believed that to ignore the cycles of the cosmos was to risk chaos, while to follow them was to ensure harmony. Every major choice, from planting crops to crowning kings, was rooted in a divinatory practice. So that also reminds me of when I did our numerology episode, how you could enter all the different things. And so like how this one is your day sign. So you could enter in, whatever, but that's also just astrology or your rising. I don't know any of that. It shows you on this.
Yeah,
but
your
I don't
rising
understand any of it.
sun and your moon and whatever. On this app, on the CoStar app, it literally gives you your horoscope based on every planet. So you have a planetary horoscope for each thing in the universe, basically.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool.
Yeah. I don't ever look that far because
sometimes I will. If my day-to-day one is really spot on and I want to hear more about kind of what's going on in my life,
yeah,
I will read the rest of the planets.
Oh, I didn't even know
they're
that was a
usually
thing.
pretty all aligned. It's pretty cool.
Really? I didn't even know that. Didn't know that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's keep moving forward in our timeline. When we think of ancient Greece, we think of gods, mythology, philosophers, and epic fantastical stories. But behind the legends of Zeus and Athena, there was something more practical at work: divination. The most famous divination site of the ancient Greek world is the Oracle of Delphi. Delphi or Delphi, I've heard both depending on what fantasy book you're reading. High up on the slopes of Mount Parnassus. Sorry, guys, I'm probably going to murder some of this. There was a temple dedicated to Apollo, the god of prophecy, music, and light. And at its heart sat a single priestess known as Pythia. She was a mouthpiece of Apollo himself, and people traveled from all corners of Greece and beyond to seek her guidance. Here's how it worked. The Pythia would sit on a tripod over a fissure in the earth. From that fissure, strange vapors would rise. Historical accounts suggest that these were probably hallucinogenic gases, which would send Pythia into a trance-like state. In this altered state, she would begin to speak, but not clearly. Her words were often cryptic, fragmented, and sometimes almost nonsensical. Priests sitting nearby would then interpret and translate her speech into prophecies. So just imagine being there. The smell of incense heavy in the air, pilgrims kneeling in reverence waiting for a divine message, and Pythia trembling, her voice rising and falling like a storm as she channeled Apollo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that disembodied voice type sound.
I can just imagine you're in, which I have no idea. I don't know what Greece or Rome or whatever, any of that, wherever this was, I've never been. So couldn't even imagine really what that looked like. I'm basically imagining Mars, which is crazy, but just desert, and just cracks in the earth with vapors rising out of it. And she's on a stand that's over it, just sitting there basically meditating.
Yeah.
And then just everyone's just kneeling, listening to what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Picture in my mind.
Very.
For sure. So some of her most famous prophecies literally changed the course of history. For example, before the Battle of Salamis in 480 BCE, the Athenians asked the oracle whether they should fight against the invading Persian forces. The Pythia cryptically advised them to trust in wooden walls. People thought she meant to build a wooden fortress, but one clever leader interpreted it differently. He believed it meant ships. The Greeks prepared their navy and ultimately won a decisive sea battle that saved their civilization. Oh my gosh, that saved their civilisation. This shows how deeply people trusted divination. Don't
hurt yourself.
I am. I'm struggling. There's way too many V's. Oh my gosh. The fate of entire nations could hinge on a single mysterious message. Which that's pretty cool. The person that's boats.
Hey.
And then they won.
Yeah.
So, slay.
Slay queen.
Other Greek practices were augury, omens, and hero worship. While the oracle was the most famous, there were many other divination methods in Greece. Augury was watching the behavior of birds to interpret divine will. The flight path, number, and type of birds all carried meaning. Sacrificial divination, similar to Mesopotamia, Greek priests examined the entrails of animals for signs from the gods. Dream oracles, again, like the temples. But one fascinating belief was that the heroes, like legendary warriors and kings, could continue to offer guidance after death. People would often visit their tombs and leave offerings asking for signs or answers, which is interesting because that means they were starting to treat the heroes like gods.
Yeah.
But they did believe like their superior was like basically whenever you watch Greek stuff like that, it would basically like a demigod is how they were treating it, which is interesting because I don't treat any of our higher ups like a demigod. I wouldn't say. Yeah, no. Like I don't know. I wouldn't imagine that. I guess. Yeah. Like I like. It's interesting the shift. Mm-hmm. History is weird. Very. I'm like history is weird. So the Romans took Greek divination and cranked it up to 11. They institutionalized it, making it a formal part of government and military planning. Rome had an entire class of officials known as augurs. Their job was to read the will of the gods through signs and omens, like I mentioned a second ago, by bird behavior. This was so important that major political decisions like declaring war or passing laws couldn't be made without consulting an augur first. For example, if a group of birds flew in a particular formation, it could mean victory in battle. If they flew chaotically, it might be a warning to retreat or reconsider. Romans also had a practice called haruspice, which was also checking entrails of animals. So this was a direct link back to Mesopotamian traditions thousands of years earlier. In essence, Rome ran on a steady diet of superstition and strategy. Even the mighty Julius Caesar famously ignored a seer's warning to beware the Ides of March and was assassinated that very same day. So, didn't pay attention to their divination. Yeah.
What happens, man?
Gotta pay attention.
These people be knowing. I don't know how they be knowing, but they be knowing.
They be knowing. When the Roman Empire fell and Europe shifted into the medieval period, divination didn't disappear. It simply changed form and often went underground. The rise of Christianity created a very complicated relationship with divination. On one hand, the Bible contains its own forms of divinely inspired prophecy, like visions, dreams, and miracles. On the other hand, many divination practices were labeled as pagan or even satanic. This tension gave birth to two very different paths: the sanctioned prophecy, religious visions and miracles accepted by the church, and forbidden magic, which were folk divination practices condemned as witchcraft. Despite disapproval, everyday people continued their old ways, just quieter. Villagers still relied on charms, omens, and rituals to guide their lives. Some common divinations included tossing grain or seeds and interpreting the patterns, reading candle flames or welted wax for signs, watching animal behavior for weather predictions, using mirrors or water to scry for visions. These practices were often passed down, especially among women, healers, and midwives. This is also where we get many of our modern superstitions, like throwing salt over our shoulder or knocking on wood. The animal behavior, that's one of the things where it's like, that's such a common day thing that people still do. You watch the cows go this way or the cows are running, it's about to rain. Yeah. Or the birds, or even like, we're augurs, I guess, because we watch birds and we know, but it's just a change of weather, you know. But we know that now, but back then, that was their sign that weather was changing and things. So I think that's very just, I mean, what about when you're at the Walmart parking lot and there's the birds on the power lines and then they start going crazy?
And there's a million of them and you feel like you're in that Alfred Hitchcock movie.
I feel like I'm in like one of the end of the world zombie apocalypse movies when the birds are doing that. I'm like, oh, we're dying.
Yeah, it's our time. The birds are waiting.
So as Christianity grew more powerful, the church began actively persecuting those who practiced forbidden forms of divination. This led to witch hunts where women and men were accused of sorcery simply for practicing divination, the demonization of tools like scrying mirrors or certain herbs, which were labeled as gateways to the devil. But here's the irony. Some divination methods thrived inside of the church walls. Monks and scholars secretly studied astrology, numerology, and alchemy. These were framed not as magic, but as attempts to understand God's creation. In other words, what was forbidden for lower class was often quietly practiced by the educated elite. So one of the most fascinating developments of the late medieval and early Renaissance period was the tarot deck. Tarot didn't start as a mystical tool. It began in 15th century Italy as a card game called tarocchi. The beautifully illustrated cards featured symbolic images like kings, fools, death, and justice that reflected medieval life and morality. Over time, these images took on symbolic meanings. By the 18th century, tarot decks were being used not for gaming, but for divination. Each card came to represent archetypes, situations, and energies. For example, the Tower symbolizing sudden upheaval or destruction, the Lovers representing choices, relationships, and passion, and death symbolizing transformation and rebirth, the tarot became a bridge between psychology, spirituality, and mysticism, and remains one of the most powerful divination tools today. Another form of divination is palmistry or chiromancy, which also gained popularity during this time. This practice involves reading the lines, mounts, and shapes of a person's hand to reveal their personality and future. The origins of palmistry go back thousands of years to India and China, but during the Renaissance, it spread across Europe, blending with astrology. Palm readers were often travelers like gypsies, fortune tellers, or healers, so they carried their knowledge across many regions. This helped keep divination alive, even though it was officially condemned at the time.
I've always wanted to do that.
Palm reading?
Get my palm read.
I feel like I had looked it up before, and I have like a really long line somewhere, and someone was like, "You're going to live a really long time." I think it's this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yay.
Yay. I know. I've always thought it was very interesting, but I'm like, how do you know who to go to?
No, I've always made a joke that a palm reader would look at my hands and be like, that, because I've got lines on lines on lines. I've just always had really, no matter how much, like I've put lotion and Vaseline on my hands today, and they're still very, very dry. But yeah, I've got a ton of lines and stuff where I'm like,
they'd be like, "Ooh, girl, let me see that."
Yeah, what the hell is happening right there?
Ooh, that's a new one.
Yeah. By the 18th and 19th centuries, divination experienced a resurgence. This was the age of enlightenment and reason, but it was also a time when spiritualism, seances, and occult societies flourished. Why? Because people were caught between two different worlds: the rational scientific age that demanded proof, and the deep human need for mystery, magic, and the connection to the unseen. New tools and systems emerged: the Ouija board, pendulums, and astrology, which meant divination was no longer for priests or hidden circles, it was for everyone.
There's where we went wrong.
Should have kept that hidden, my guy.
That's where it started.
This is your fault. And that brings us to the modern age, where divination is more accessible than ever. From tarot TikTok accounts to astrology apps on your phone, these ancient practices are alive and thriving. But here's where things take a turn. Many believe that divination isn't just symbolic or psychological. They believe that when you shuffle those cards, when you gaze into the mirror, when you let a pendulum swing, you're not just interpreting random patterns, you're opening a door. You're inviting something or someone to speak through those tools. And sometimes what comes through isn't what you expected. We are about to venture into the paranormal side of divination. We'll talk about divination as spirit communication, explore dangerous rituals, and share stories of divination gone horribly wrong. Because divination isn't just about knowing the future. Sometimes it's about who's waiting on the other side to tell you.
Interesting. I would have never thought that. I don't feel like tarot card reading, like I feel like it's all, what was the word? Spiritual and psychological? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I don't feel that it's a portal at all.
Tarot?
Like I've never thought that.
Tarot's always made me a little nervous.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see that with that at all. I mean, maybe I will when you tell me more, but as where I sit right now and what I've always thought about it, I have never seen it as
really. It's
as
always
a
kind of
portal.
freaked me out.
Okay, interesting.
I don't know why. I think for me, I'm like, well, and it's not necessarily about reading the future. It is, but I'm also like, I am not a tarot expert. I have like never really learned how to read or draw a card, but they say you just do it off feeling. It's not just like the top of the deck, right? You
kind of spread them out and then
so it's like, what's guiding your hand to that there? What kind of intuition is that? Is it something else influencing you to do that? To like let you know what's going to happen? And so that's where I'm like,
I just feel like it's more intuition.
Yeah. Well, what would you think intuition is? Do you think intuition is just fully based off your own
psyche? Yeah.
Yeah. Or do you think intuition is something kind of makes you feel that way? Like there's something in the world, some sort of force of nature.
I guess it just depends on the situation.
Yeah. I listen to my intuition, and girl, is she good. My intuition is on it. If my intuition right now said, don't drive home today, guess what? I'm sleeping in this studio. Like I am not driving home.
We're not doing it.
No.
Yeah.
And sometimes, but I do have really bad anxiety too, so I'll get caught up. Like, is it my anxiety or am I? No, it's my intuition.
Yeah, but how can you tell a difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just have to kind of feel it out a little
bit.
Feel through it. But my intuition is there.
You spot on.
Yeah. But yeah, isn't that all very?
It's very interesting.
I know a lot of it kind of is like they all kind of, that's what I was warning at in the beginning. They all kind of use a lot of the same things, but they've all kind of, it started here and then it breaks and then it adds and then it shifts and twists. And
I think they all have their fair differences, but they all seem to have been used for the same reasons.
Yeah,
the
to
same
try and
things.
stay alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we need to read the calendar to stay alive. I also want to know, because I haven't done the full research on that either, but where we went from 260 days to 365.
Yes. I've seen something about it, but
Well, that's what set us off where we were supposed to all die. The world
Mhm.
was supposed to end on this day, on this day because of this. If you actually read the right Mayan calendar, then
Yeah.
it fell in line with, I don't
Yeah,
even
it
know,
was like-
whatever else.
it was like June or July of 2012 or something
It was like
that.
December 12th of 2012.
Oh, was
or
it December?
2012.
I remember
I
I was
thought it
on,
was 12/12/12.
I thought it was like in the summer or like early fall, maybe like right after the summer, because
I know we weren't in school. We were either on Christmas
I was on
break.
the boat with Jaylee.
Well, it's happened more than once. Like, it's been more than once.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I was at old Mary B's house.
But the one that I remember the most.
I was at old Mary Bailey's, sitting in a trailer house, watching High School Musical. We turned our phones off so that we couldn't see the time.
Oh God, that's so funny.
But yeah, that had to do with the Mayan calendar,
Yeah.
or whatever.
And I was like a little bit skeptical about it because I was like, all this stuff that I'm reading sounds pretty legit to me.
Oh, I believed in it. That's why I turned my phone off. I
Yeah.
was like, I don't want to know, because it was supposed to be like at 12/12, like lunchtime 12/12 or
Yeah.
whatever. It was something like that, where I was like, I'm turning my phone off so that I can't see what time it is.
Yeah, I remember all of us being on the boat, and
At least you're gonna die happy.
we were like, well, at least we're having fun.
No, I think divination's very interesting because it's like, I do still throw salt over my shoulder. I do flip a
Mhm.
coin, and that's basically what flipping a coin is. It's like the odds.
Yeah.
It falls a lot into superstition, I would say.
Mhm.
But that's where they say it's turned from less of a hard, like, I don't know. It went from being what everyone used to make sure that they stayed alive to becoming some sort of sorcery, to becoming like people still do it now. And the people who do it now still get probably labeled like,
Oh yeah.
depending on what level you're doing it at,
Mhm.
people are still going to label you as like the witchy girl or whatever, which is fine. Totally would take that
Yeah,
title.
fine, whatever.
But you still get, I don't know. I think it's very interesting how it went from like, this is how you have to live, divination.
To being this taboo.
Yeah. Being it's like eccentric and mystical
Yeah.
and paranormal and weird.
Yeah, I don't get that.
No. Very interesting.
But I also feel like I don't know if I should say this, but there's a difference between how you practice.
Yeah. It's intentional. Like your
Like
intentions
if you're
with it.
doing it satanically versus
Yeah.
not, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Your intention.
Yeah.
Do we have good or bad? Like, what are we putting in here?
Yeah.
I have a part 2 for it. It's not near as long, so our part 2 to this might be shorter, but that's fine. It is what
Yeah.
it is. I think that was enough of an episode. I don't need the episode to be an hour and
Yeah.
a half or hour
Yeah.
and 45 minutes. So that we will let be part 1. If you have any thoughts, questions, remarks, anything like that, send us a message at sisterofthestrange@gmail.com. We also have had people asking how to join the Discord. I saw a couple of different comments. I tried like tagging the Discord, like uploading the link, but I don't know if it actually works that way because it was on our Spotify.
Mhm.
So you can go to our social medias. Our Instagram for sure, I know, has it. You get into our Instagram, and in the bio there's a link, and it's our link tree, and it's the Discord's in that. You literally can just click on it, and I think it says Landry invited you, because I think I set the link up. So
Yeah.
they said Landry invites you, and I was like, oh, and whatever. So you should be able to do it that way. If that doesn't work, then send us a message. Let us know. I feel like we're pretty good about responding to messages and stuff. So part 2 of this will be on Thursday.
Woo! Come back for part 2.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.